Somebody's been hurting my people, and it's gone on far too long. Well, it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's been hurting my people, and it's gone on far too long. And I won't be silent anymore. Somebody's been hurting my siblings, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Oh, well, it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's been hurting my siblings, and it's gone on far too long. And I won't be silent anymore. Somebody's been hurting my neighbors, and it's gone on far too long. Oh, it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Oh, well, somebody's been hurting my neighbors, and it's gone on far too long. And I won't be silent anymore. Somebody's been hurting my country, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Oh, well, it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's been hurting my country, and it's gone on far too long. And I won't be silent anymore. Somebody's been hurting my planet, and it's gone on far too long. Well, it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. I said somebody's been hurting my planet, and it's gone on far too long. And I won't be silent anymore.
Opening Words by Marianne Hatton Cotter. Welcome to this place of possibilities. This is Love's Hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for the minds in search of truth, unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this abode, may we find courage and comfort. Here may our sight become vision to the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple of space, its shrine of the heart, its creed of truth, its bridge of all words of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its
Love is the spirit of this church.
and service is its law,
To dwell together in peace
to seek the truth in love.
and to help one another.
This is our great covenant.
Over my head, over my head, I hear music in the air. I hear music in the air. Over my head, over my head, I hear music in the air. I hear music in the air. Over my head, over my head, I hear music in the air. Oh, where there must be a God somewhere. Over my head, over my head, I hear singing in the air. I hear singing in the air. Over my head, over my head, I hear singing in the air. I hear singing in the air. Over my head, over my head, I hear singing in the air. I hear singing in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, over my head, I see trouble in the air. I see trouble in the air. Over my head, over my head, I see trouble in the air. I see trouble in the air. Over my head, over my head, I see trouble in the air. I see trouble in the air. There must be a God somewhere.
The story I have to share today is another modern midrash from Rabbi Mark Gelman. Like the one I shared a few weeks ago, this is a story written to explore gaps or spaces in between or within traditional biblical stories. And so this story begins after the time that is remembered during the observance of Passover, when the Hebrews escaped slavery in Egypt. When this story starts, it is near the end of their 40 years of travel in the desert after crossing the Red Sea. And now, as you might imagine, after wandering through the desert for 40 years, the children of Israel looked pretty bad. You could see the bones of the children right through their skin. And most of the cows and the sheep and the goats were so dried up at that point they could not give milk. Now, at least the people did not starve in the desert because of the food that was sent for them, which was called manna. Manna collected on the plants in the morning, and it looked like grass seed, but tasted just a little bit better than sand. If you mushed it up with some water and baked it, it tasted a little like bread. Now, Joshua, the servant of Moses, had been told that the land of Israel was flowing with milk and honey. Moses had told him, and he said that God had told him. And so at night around the campfires, Joshua would tell the children of Israel stories about the land of milk and honey. Imagine that. When he told him about the milk and the honey, how all of those hungry kids, all they could think about was drinking some of that milk and eating some of that honey. Now, every now and then in the desert, somebody would find a honeycomb. Every kid in the camp would line up to get a tiny piece, and then they would lick their fingers all day long, even after all the honey had been licked off, just to try and remember the taste. Can you imagine the taste of that sweetness? Have you ever tasted honey? Taste that now, just a little bit. Now, on the night before finally entering the land of Israel, Joshua had to face the fact that he really did not know where to find the milk, where to find the honey. And he was afraid to tell the children because they were so hungry. But then the day the children of Israel entered the land of Israel, people were crying and singing for joy. And the children ran to the river Jordan yelling, "It's a milk river!" And they dove in, swallowing huge mouthfuls. And then what do you think they did? They spat it out. They cried, "This river is made of water." Then the children of Israel saw a mountain up ahead, and they cried out, "It's a honey mountain!" And they grabbed up handfuls of the mountain and stuffed it into their mouths. And what do you think happened then? They spat it out. They said, "This mountain is made of dirt." That night, the children of Israel camped inside the land of Israel near the river Jordan and near the mountains of Moab, where Moses had said goodbye to them. The flocks were happy and well fed now on the green grass that grew near the river. And the families were dancing and singing for joy, and everyone felt happy at coming home to the land that had been promised to their ancestors. When Joshua called together all the kids at the top of a little hill near the camp, and he said to them, "I want to tell you that I'm sorry. I don't know where to find the milk, and I don't know where to find the honey. But at least we are free, and we are together, and we are home at last." And then they all looked up, and in the light of the setting sun, the river looked milky white, and the mountains of Moab looked honey yellow. But then, do you know what happened? The next day, the children found many large honeycombs in the trees near the river, and they ate and ate and ate until nobody wanted any more. Have you ever eaten something that was so yummy you ate so much of it you just couldn't have any more? Whew. And on that day, the goats and sheep and cows began to give milk again. And they gave so much milk that everybody drank all that they could. Drank until they couldn't drink anymore, until they were totally full of milk. Joshua led the people deeper into the land after that. But the children of Israel left behind on a pile of rocks a little jar of milk and a piece of honeycomb with a note. And on the note they said, "To God from all the kids, thank you for this place." And then they traveled on to find what they would in their new home.
The human race is a vast rainbow bursting into view of white and black, red, yellow, and brown. Yet, for all blood is red, the sky is blue, the earth brown, and the night dark. In size and shape, we are a varied pattern of tall and short, slim and stout, elegant and plain. Yet for all, there are fingers to touch, hearts to break, eyes to cry, ears to hear, and mouths to speak. In tongue, we are a Tower of Babel, a great jumble of voices grasping for words, groping for ways to say love, peace, pity, and hope. Faiths compete, claiming the one way. Saviors abound, pointing to salvation. Not all can be right, not one. We are united by our urge to search. Boundaries divide us, lines drawn to mark our diversity, maps charted to separate the human race from itself. Yet a mother's grief, a father's love, a child's happy cry, a musician's sound, an artist's stroke batter the boundaries and shatter the walls. Strength and weakness, arrogance and humility, confidence and fear live together in each one, reminding us that we share a common humanity. We are all more human than otherwise.
Step by step, the longest march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none. And by union, what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none. Step by step, the longest march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none. And by union, what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none.
Good morning. In this beautiful place I call my home, I can hear the birds singing, one of which just flew straight at the window and flew away. From here I can see the purple flowers of periwinkle, the white blossoms of twin leaf, and bright yellow daffodils smiling right at me. I love it. Maybe you can see red buds bursting or dogwood blossoms peeping out. I'm reminded again of the Thich Nhat Hanh invitation to breathe in and relax my body and breathe out and smile. Present moment, perfect moment. Ah. Good morning, I am Carolyn, serving you today as part of the spiritual care team. This is the time in our service when we share our connections with each other as we share our joys and our concerns. For now, we carry in our hearts such sadness for the people of Atlanta and Boulder, families and neighbors and co-workers who are enduring the loss and the trauma of the recent shootings. So much pain, so much pain. May they feel surrounded as if by angels, by the care and concern of so many people. In this time of COVID, we send our prayers of support to those who are ill, to those who are caring for sick loved ones and those who have lost dear ones. There are also those who are dealing with the side effects of COVID. John Coffey reports this, that his mother is at home now recovering from her procedure, and everything went well. The results showed there are lasting effects from the COVID infection, but it is reassuring to know that these effects can be regulated with medication, so she will be returning to her usual work routine as a hospital caseworker. John says, be sure to tell you that he and his family appreciate all the love and support of this congregation. So as I sat quietly this morning, waiting for some kind of inspiration, a voice clearly addressed me inside, and it was asking, what is your target, Carolyn? So, okay, I'm paying attention now. What is my best intention? To love? But there is so much more to love than any of us can know in this lifetime. To practice love. Yes, keep practicing love. I look around and I see so many of us are practicing love. I see Chloe and Eunice and Faye and Claire and Betty practicing love, wearing masks as they gather at the park to celebrate being fully vaccinated. I see Elnora texting her gratitude for the music so often. I see John Montgomery installing touchless faucets. I see Denise checking in on Jenna's knee replacement therapy. I see Carol McCold sending out those thoughtful cards. I see Nick Potter and team carefully considering loving pathways to opening. I see David and Chaz and Bill Dabbs working to make singing together safe. I see Chris opening his sermon singing, I believe in the sun. I believe in love. I see Bob Grimmick helping clear invasive plants and guiding moonlit walks. These are only a few whose best intention is to keep practicing love in this lifetime. This week, a reading was shared with me. It emphasized the importance of practicing trust and practicing love before working to free ourselves from prejudice and before opening ourselves to other possibilities. Yeah, all of these traits are healthy goals. But the assertion in this reading was practice loving before practicing opening to that which is not yet known or understood. Wow, I thought. Loving as a basis for opening? That is exactly what we're doing here. Look around. See all the love that is being practiced. And in time, we will open to that which is not yet known. We will. In time, we will open the doors to our building. We will open them wide, like the hearts that are opening wide as they practice love. Please remember that the spiritual care team is available via the phone number listed in the newsletter. Within the next couple of weeks, I hope we'll have that heartline available so you can reach a live person. And for the time being, I am available via the number in the newsletter. We want to hear from you. Now, join me in a short meditation followed by a closing verse. This meditation begins with that Thich Nhat Hanh invitation to breathe and smile, plus a little bit of fun. So settle in. Shake off your thoughts. Take a deep breath. Breathe in and relax your body. Breathe out and smile. Present moment, perfect moment. Breathe in, breathe out. My feet are smiling. My ankles are smiling. My calves are smiling. My knees are smiling. My thighs are smiling. My hips are smiling. My back is smiling. Breathe in. Breathe out. My belly and chest are smiling. My hands and arms are smiling. My shoulders and neck are smiling. My face and eyes are smiling. Breathing in and breathing out. The beauty of all things radiant and fair, how it pours through my heart, how it fills me with gladness. In the people I meet, this same beauty is there. It reflects in their eyes, both in joy and in sadness. And when our eyes sparkle or twinkle or shine, when warm love is flowing in the way that we live, then the water of life in ourselves becomes wine. And for love, this can be the great gift that we give. Keep practicing.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today at TVUUC. Today is a Share the Plate Sunday. What that means is that any contribution that comes in today will be split between our Share the Plate organization and the General Operating Fund of TVUUC unless it is marked as a pledge. The Share the Plate organization for today is the Beardsley Community Farm. You'll be seeing a video and learning more about them in a few minutes. But let me just say the way that you can give, or you can go to tvuuc.org/give, or you can text give to the number 73256, type in TVUUC, and the amount that you would like to give. Once again, thank you for joining us and have a great morning.
Beardsley Farm is Knoxville's oldest urban demonstration farm. So we donate about 10,000 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables to hunger relief organizations in Knoxville every year. We do that with the help of about 2,000 volunteers who come to the farm and help us with weeding, harvesting, planting, kind of whatever needs doing. We're a working farm here just outside of downtown Knoxville. I act as the outreach coordinator, so I manage all of our social media. I do a lot of the volunteer coordination and any, marketing materials and things that we need for the farm. There's a lot of what I do on an individual basis.
I am the education coordinator. So basically what I do is when there's kids that come to the farm, or as far as going to Head Starts, classrooms, I do a lot of that stuff as well. So just making sure that we're active in the community, going to after school programs, different things like that. So a food desert is any area where they're not able to get fruits and vegetables within 1 mile. Prior to Food City being here, this area, the Mechanicsville area, was a food desert.
So Beardsley hosts a community work day, usually once a month on a Saturday, sometimes twice a month if we've got a lot going on in late spring, early summer, of course. So we do that as a way, of course, one, just for convenience for folks' schedules who can't necessarily come during the week, during workday hours, so then they can still get out to the farm on the weekend. But then it's also nice because it allows groups from UT, Pellissippi, Johnson, workplaces and things to come, and we can have a lot of people on the farm and get big projects done. So when we have a big field in Malcolm Martin Park that's about 1/3 of an acre that every spring we have to lay down irrigation tape and put on landscape fabric. There's only 7 of us that work at the farm full-time, and that is not something that 7 of us can feasibly do. So we love having big groups come for big projects like that. So when folks come for the community work day, we, of course, because the second part of our mission is education. And so, of course, we're giving folks tours, telling them about what they do, about what we do, if they haven't been to the farm before. And of course, that's not only just, to tell them, but also so they get a more tangible idea of why they're at the work day. Why are they volunteering their time and giving back?
So my target audience for community outreach is people who don't already know about community gardening and having things locally sourced and that type of thing, because Beardsley does get a lot of people who are already interested, and that's great. But my part would be more so expanding and making sure more people are becoming more and more aware of where their food comes from and nutrition and how they can grow their own food.
My name's Holly Ross. I heard about it through my boyfriend. He had to do some community service a few years ago, and Beardsley Farm was on the list, and he picked it, and then he told me about it, and it was right before we had moved away for a couple of years, and then right when I knew we were coming back, this was something I wanted to be involved in, and just a way to donate some of my free time and help others and do some community work. And it was nice to just literally get my hands in the dirt and learn a few things and kind of find out what all they do here and the other people they're partnered with. Yeah, we got a lot done, and I definitely want to come back and do it again. It was easy.
So I'm Ansley Parker, and I'm here with Knox County Youth Health Board. We were primarily working on watering and gardening around the kale and just some other various plants. I really like Beardsley just because of, I guess, what they give to you. I like that it connects with other places in the community, whether it be mobile meals or different women's shelters and things like that. I like that the food is used for a good cause. It gives volunteers a great way to connect with each other through serving, and then also just impacting the people that need food in our community.
They can come back in June or something and see the things that they planted then growing, and then they can see the impact that they're having on the community. They can be like, okay, in March I planted this, and now I can see it growing, and now I know that it's going to help feed someone who doesn't have that access to fresh fruits and vegetables that I might get.
I think I can say concerning this great gospel singer in our midst, our dear friend, my great friend Mahalia Jackson, that a voice like this comes only once in a millennium. If there is any doubt in anybody's mind concerning whether we have a movement here in Chicago, you ought to be in this church tonight.
Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, and the walls came a-tumbling down. W.C. Handy, who has been called the father of the blues and who lived in Memphis, Tennessee, on the other side of the state, once said that the spirituals did more to free my people than all the guns in the Union Army. The Civil War and the civil rights movements were simply a continuation of the revolution that the spirituals started. The spirituals counter the forces of denigration with the power of affirmation. The message in the music is, I exist and I matter. In this way, we can hear themes from the spirituals in the contemporary Black Lives Matter movement. I exist and I matter. We hear echoes of these themes in contemporary sermons, as when the Reverend Jesse Jackson leads his famous I am somebody chant, which he does in many rallies, where he calls out, respect me, protect me, never neglect me. I am somebody, I am God's child. This music from the spiritual, this you can hear that in his sermon. He is singing along with the music of the ages, and the spiritual tradition is the wind beneath his wings. The music instills in us this affirmation that I am a human being, no matter what anybody says. I am a human being, no matter what anybody does, no matter what the power structure tries to impose on us. The Reverend Dr. Harold Middlebrook was one of Dr. Martin Luther King's lieutenants. He retired here in Knoxville. His last church was here in Knoxville. And he tells the story about how his grandmother, who was known to him as Big Mama, instilled in him a sense of his power and his promise and his worth and his dignity. Now, once when Dr. Middlebrook was with Jesse Jackson, and Jesse Jackson was leading that chant, I am somebody, afterwards, Jesse Jackson chided him a little bit because Dr. Middlebrook didn't seem as enthusiastic. He wasn't joining in on it all. He wasn't giving it his whole, force of personality. And Dr. Middlebrook said, I don't need to do that chant. My big mama told me that message a long time ago. I am somebody. And so that theme that carries on in the spirituals and is echoed by preachers is also passed on through the love of grandmothers to their children. Now, the spirituals come from the African American tradition, the tradition of slavery and moving into freedom. But I believe they have a message to everyone who has ears to hear, everyone who has ever known oppression, everyone who has ever experienced marginalization, anyone who's ever felt dismissed or set aside or devalued. W.C. Handy said, the spirituals did more to free my people than all the guns in the Union Army. The spirituals have liberating power, and if we are open to it, and if we are ready and willing, then the spirituals can set us free. The song Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho comes from a story in the Bible. The story goes like this. One day God said to Joshua, I want you to take your army and march around the walls of the city of Jericho once a day for 6 days, and have the priests blow their horns. And on the 7th day, I want you to walk around the walls of Jericho 7 times, and then have the priests blow their horns and have everyone shout. And Joshua did this, and as everyone was shouting, the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. And the Hebrew people who had been slaves in Egypt were able to walk into the promised land where they could be free. Now, according to biblical tradition, this was a very violent battle. The Battle of Jericho was very violent. when the soldiers walked into Jericho, they killed every living thing, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. So the story seems to be a very disturbing story, an account of divine sanctioned genocide. For this reason, it may seem kind of strange that the song Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho would become an important theme and anthem of a nonviolent civil rights movement. Well, this is because the civil rights leaders interpreted the story of the Battle of Jericho allegorically. A long-held biblical interpretation tradition is that there is more than one way to read a story in the Bible. Literally is one way, allegorical is another way. Literally, this story seems to be a story that gives divine permission to kill people and take their territory. And this is the way many early European settlers interpreted the story when they came to America, and America was the promised land, and they saw the story as a good rationale for why they could remove the Indians and commit genocide and take the land. So when we interpret the story in a literal way, it's a very dangerous and deadly story. However, a story and a song can be heard in more than one way. Indeed, that's the history of biblical interpretation. If you read any of the commentaries of the Bible, you know that one story can be seen and interpreted in many different ways. In the African American spiritual tradition, Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho is set in the present. It's about the present struggle for equality, this present struggle for justice. And in this one, people of color are the chosen people, and the white people are the people who are in the way. So this battle, this battle of Jericho, it's not a military battle in this spiritual. It's a spiritual battle. And the enemy is not a human being or even a race of human being. The enemy is the power of evil itself, and the weapons of this war are weapons of the Spirit. One of the favorite texts of people who were participating in the front lines of the nonviolent movement came from the book of Ephesians. And this is a scripture that's important to a lot of activists. I had a conversation with Alandria Williams where she mentioned this scripture, how you need to go into these conflicts with spiritual armor. And here's how the Apostle Paul wrote about it in the book of Ephesians. He wrote, "Therefore put on the whole armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. Stand firm with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, and the breastplate of righteousness in place. And with your feet fitted with the readiness comes from the gospel of peace," nonviolent movement. "In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, that is the word of God." Nonviolent weapons of peace taken into a battle for justice. In this spiritual tradition, the promised land isn't someone else's territory that we can conquer. Instead, it's about the promises that were made in the Declaration of Independence, that we are all created equal. Promises that were made but never kept. And so the promised land is about the hope that one day we as a nation will live into the full meaning of our creed. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King put it this way in his March on Washington in the 1960s. He said, "It is obvious today that America has defaulted on a promissory note that we are all created equal. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back labeled insufficient funds. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation, so we've come to cash this check." The promised land is about promises made that have not been kept. The promised land is about an America where we practice what we preach and we live up to the ideals that we lift up for others. All too often, America has fallen short of its ideals, which led the poet Langston Hughes to say, "America never was America to me." But he went on to write, "Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where everyone is free." The promised land is the land that has not been yet, but must be. And as we make our journey toward the promised land of freedom, the promised land of equality, the promised land where everyone has worth and dignity and value, then we will encounter obstacles along the way. So it's important for us to sing and to pray that those walls come a-tumbling down. Earlier, I shared with you words from the Apostle Paul about spiritual warfare, where we try to overcome falsehood with truth, where we try to overcome hatred with love, where we try to overcome fear with faith. In spiritual warfare, we don't try to overcome evil with evil, but overcome evil with good. This is the tradition in spiritual warfare, but it's not just something that's biblical. In the Hindu tradition, the Bhagavad Gita is a story very much like the Battle of Jericho, in the sense that it's, if you interpret it literally, it is about a military battle, a violent struggle. And yet, spiritually speaking, it's often interpreted as an allegory. And Mahatma Gandhi, who was an apostle of nonviolence, this was his favorite scripture. And he saw it as a metaphor for how to find peace in ourselves and then work for peace in the world. Interpreted allegorically, the battle that's at the heart of the Bhagavad Gita is about how we work for peace and nonviolence in the world, how we struggle for it. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a group of people known as the Shambhala warriors, and the weapons of the spirit that they have are compassion and insight. Compassion sort of is the energy and the fuel for doing good works in the world. But insight is to make sure that those compassionate acts, that those good works are informed by knowledge and wisdom and deep intuition. Now, in spiritual warfare, the things that block us from our goals are not physical or material walls. They are invisible walls. They are the walls of fear, the walls of hate, the walls of anger and distrust, the systems of oppression that are hard to see and are put in place by the principles and powers of the world. They are the walls that divide rich and poor, haves and have-nots, divide people into different races and different colors, divide people into categories of immigrant and native, divide people on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. There are a million different ways to build walls. There are often walls built between people of different faiths to make everyone seem alien to each other. And yet we are all called to love our neighbors as ourselves. We are all called to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. We are all called to do justice and love mercy and walk humbly. In this way, we are all called to the same work. We are all called to fight the spiritual battle of Jericho. Yesterday was the beginning of Passover, and this is a strange season. Now, in the Passover tradition, it's common to tell the ancient stories of the Hebrew people who were slaves in Egypt moving toward freedom. This story is meant to inform contemporary struggles for freedom in the world. This year, many people are having their Passover Seders on Zoom. So these are very, very strange times. And during the Passover dinner, it's common to say, "Next year in Jerusalem." But as a closing thought, let me offer you a simpler proposition. How about next year we meet in person? How about next year we meet in the same place and in the same room together? The coronavirus has kept us apart this year, as firmly divided us as the walls around a city. And yet if we commit together to work for freedom, freedom of the body and freedom of the mind and freedom of the spirit, then we can work together and those walls will come a-tumbling down.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go. 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 And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
Where you go, I will go, Mother Earth. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, Mother Earth. Where you go, I will go.
And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, ancestors. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, ancestors. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
Closing Words by Rise Williams. Remembering our spiritual, courageous ancestors who forsook oppression with security to gain freedom with opportunity. May we go forth to master ourselves by accepting duty with responsibility, by showing balance in our judgments, and by having breadth of vision in our deliberations. May we be exemplars of that spirit, moving forward with conviction and commitment, with unity and without uniformity, with brotherhood and sisterhood to serve the truth that sets us free. Amen.
Let people living in all lands declare that fear and hate are gone. Rise above differences and stand in love and understanding one.
After the service, I invite you to come to our virtual coffee hour where we have two important events that you can attend. You can go to a virtual tour of Selma, or you can help us do a dance video for our Easter service. So come to our virtual coffee hour. I also encourage you to come to one of the minister check-in groups or one of the activities that's happening online this week. You can get our newsletter to find out more about the activities we have to offer. Find ways to stay connected, even as this virus tries to keep us apart. Go in peace.